Hey yo, what's good? It's your boy Mixtape Moth, and today I'm going to hit y'all with a review of the new Dave East album entitled Hoffa. Let's get to it. Alright, so Dave East is a Harlem rapper and actor. He's an artist who I feel receives a lot of unnecessary hate on social media. It's become trendy for many people on Twitter to get their jokes off whenever Dave East drops new material. It's pretty predictable at this point, that they are going to go in on him. But I don't get the sense that Dave East is really too bothered by the criticism, as I sense he is too much of an alpha male to really be bent out of shape by it, because he's likely laid up with something bad while their haters are talking greasy behind a keyboard. But I digress. This new album, Hoffa, is Dave East's first solo project of 2021. This comes after his Pablo and Blanco EP with Millsy from a couple months back. Hoffa is produced entirely by Harry Fraud, who has had a pretty impressive output so far this year. He's produced for Jim Jones, Benny the Butcher, and Dark Low. The theme for this Hoffa album is based on Jimmy Hoffa, who was the American labor union leader who had mob ties. He was also the president of the Teamsters Union, but when most people hear Jimmy Hoffa, they associate him with organized crime. So if you had the 10 hours set aside to watch the Irishman movie, then you likely saw Jimmy Hoffa's character played by Al Pacino. But interestingly enough, Dave East didn't get the motivation for this album because of that movie. If you follow Dave East's music over the years, and you have heard him name drop Jimmy Hoffa numerous times. Also, Dave East recently disclosed that his grandfather was one of the head union guys and an actual acquaintance to Jimmy Hoffa. So I guess that could give Dave East somewhat of a personal connection to this infamous figure. And I'm sure growing up listening to mafioso rap during the 90s and 2000s from legends like Ray and Ghost, Nas, AZ, Biggie, and the Lox served as an inspiration as well. So getting back to this new project, Hoffa, it contains 14 tracks and lasts a total of 40 minutes. The features include G Herbo, Benny the Butcher, Jim Jones, Steve Young, French Montana, Crutch Calhoun, King Shooter, and Currency. But with that being said, let me go ahead and hit y'all with this track-by-track breakdown. The opener, The Disappearance, kicks things off with news clippings regarding Jimmy Hoffa's disappearance. It's set to a jazzy and chic sax instrumental that has this sophisticated uptown flavor. Here, Dave East gives us one very solid verse. Some bars that stood out were, I witnessed tragedy and got back to my pen and pad. Most of the feelings I felt for the industry, I got past them. Bunch of dudes that came out before me, feel like I lapped them. LeBron James, them dudes, bronze sons like action. So he's admitting to writing his lyrics this time around instead of freestyling like he has done on his previous few efforts. He's also talking his talk and giving us some clever wordplay with the LeBron in action line. Track 2, 60 for a Lawyer, has some really attractive soul sample production. There's also some more clips from Hoffa. The bars here were solid, but I did like when he said, flamboyant like Big L, smoking an L on Lennox. So obviously this was a nod to the Harlem legend Big L, who was known for his flamboyant Harlem rhyme style, but because he also started the Flamboyant Entertainment label before his untimely death. Also, he had the single Flamboyant on his posthumous album, The Big Picture. On the following track, Diamonds, we get a mixture of guitar, flutes, and chipmunk soul. It's another really standout instrumental, and it also has some of Dave's sharpest writing on the project. He raps, you ain't been nervous till you had narcotics on the highway. I've been an outcast, screw up like Andre, 3,000 in my pocket. I know they hate on me, but somehow I'm always the topic. And we know Dave East always manages to be a trending topic when he drops new music, so this is all facts. Right after is Just Another Rapper, which has a bouncy and trap-like beat with a faint vocal sample. There's a feel-good vibe going on. On here, Dave East talks about being more than just a rapper. He's also a businessman, an actor, and motivator of the streets. This was an alright track and something decent that you could ride out and vibe to. It was nothing mind-blowing, but it's cool. Then there is the record Go Off with G Herbo. This has a psychedelic backdrop with some moody guitars and a rock-styled vocal sample. I guess you could say it has that signature Harry Fraud sound. Dave East had a pretty solid verse. Now, as far as G Herbo's performance, his bars weren't too memorable, but vocally he sounded good over this production. Immediately following is Uncle Rick featuring Benny the Butcher. This has another guitar back beat with some flutes and an eerie vocal sample on the hook. There is somewhat of this mysterious mafioso quality to the beat that is very fitting for the Butcher's appearance. Dave East drops some bars about giving back to his hood and how his Uncle Rick just recently came home after being unjustly incarcerated for 40 years. While Benny hit us with some boastful lines about Griselda's impact on the rap game. He states, "Dudes took our manuals, tearing out the pages, put us on lists comparing our greatness. But I'm like Mike, I feel dudes couldn't ball in the era I played in." Man, Benny stays with the NBA references. The following track, The Product, is more of an atmospheric banger that is slightly trap inspired. I can't say there was any rewind worthy material here, as Dave East gave us some underwhelming lines like, "If we at the table, I'm sitting like a mobster. I go to sleep in my dreams and see monsters." It's stuff that he could write in his sleep. I mean, it's kind of rudimentary for Dave East. Then on Money and Power, Dave East is joined by Jim Jones to rap on top of this funky and soulful instrumental. To be honest, nothing from Dave or Jim Jones really jumped out at me, but this wasn't a bad song as the production and vibe was dope. Afterwards, on I Can Hear the Storm, Dave East reflects back to growing up in public housing. This is one of those from nothing to something kind of records that Dave East specializes in. This has a keyboard beat that's a little somber and hypnotic. All in all, it's a solid track. Then on Dollar in a Dream, Dave East reminisces back to his days of hustling before he made millions from entertainment. He talks about having the Len bias coke that would make fiends drop dead on campus. This is set to some lush sample-based production. We get this Chris Brown styled hook from Steve Young. It has somewhat of this late 2000s R&B feel. On track 11, we have the Get Money anthem Count It Up featuring French Montana. Now, I'm not going to hold you. Going into this, I assumed this was going to be the weakest song, but French's hook was pretty catchy. I also like the smooth sax production. Now, this one wasn't good lyrically, but it's something that you could play for the cool vibe and the production. What follows is The Wind featuring Crush Calhoun. Here we are getting a very chill 80s R&B style beat. It's smooth riding music. Dave East gives us some heartfelt bars about overcoming obstacles. I feel it's another one of his stronger verses from the project. Whereas Crush Calhoun's verse didn't really leave much of an impression. I can't say I loved his feature, just kind of existed. The second to last track is Yeah, I Know featuring the late King Shooter. Now, this was recorded before King Shooter unfortunately passed away due to complications from COVID-19. King Shooter was also one of Dave East's closest friends. And when you think about it, Dave East has really lost a lot of people close to him in the last couple years. This is set to a dreary piano melody that has this rainy day in the projects kind of feel, and I think Dave East sounds great over this particular style of piano production, and I think it's one of the better songs overall. Then the album comes to a conclusion with the Currency assisted Red Fox Restaurant. This has a really cool title. The title is significant because it is named after the location of Hoffa's last known whereabouts before he went down for the dirt nap. This has one of my favorite instrumentals, as I love the luxurious and bright piano loop. It's a very fitting aesthetic for the luxury rap god himself, Currency. On here, Dave East also reminds us of the positive impact Nas had on his life. He states, "Been low from dice games cause they'll line you. My whole life changed when Nas said, I got you." Overall, I give this project a rating of a strong 3.5 mics, something around a 3.8. I feel this album has some of Harry Fraud's finest instrumentals of the year. His incorporation of strings, flutes, pianos, guitar, combined with the smooth trap, all made for a sonically pleasing experience. Now, as far as Dave East's performance is concerned, I can't say that I feel he went above and beyond on this project, which is kind of puzzling considering that he stated that he wrote this album as opposed to previous releases where he allegedly freestyled his way through. I feel his writing on Karma 3 was more detailed and intricate. I'm not saying that the bars on here are trash. but a lot of this stuff came across as surface level and slightly dumbed down. But it must be noted that I have really high standards when it comes to mafioso rap albums, as the mafioso rap subgenre is one of my favorites in hip hop. So I wish Dave East could have given us some more storytelling or made his lyrics more cinematic. I will say though that his flow came across as less rigid and more fluid this time around, which was a good thing because for a period of time it seemed like he had adopted a different cadence that I wasn't too fond of. As a whole, this project was very solid without any misses, and the sonics were dope. It just seemed like Dave East was going through the motions at times. My favorite tracks include The Disappearance, 64 Lawyer, Diamonds, Uncle Rick, Count It Up, Yeah I Know, and the Red Fox instrumental. Let me know what you thought about this album in the comment section below. It's your boy Mixtape Moth. I'm signing out, but be sure to hit that like button and please subscribe. As always, it's peace and blessings. Dave East, Harry Fraud, Hoffa, 1.